Hey guys, this is Tauna, and today we're going to be talking about all the Duskmourn stuff that was shown today. So we're going to go through everything that was revealed within the PAX West. Lots of new stuff, new cards, new mechanics. The room mechanic looks freaking bonkers and really fun. You know, there's a new take on Morph. Lots of really cool stuff. So this was like an hour-long stream. I've condensed it down into this video, so hopefully this is easier for you guys. Just make sure you subscribe, share the video around, everything like that. It supports the channel. I would love to be able to get to the point that I can reveal one of these cards, or even like reveal a whole commander deck. That's like my dream, is to be able to reveal a commander deck that's coming out. But if you're friends with Gavin, send this to Gavin. Say hi to him for me. So it started out with a trailer with Nashi going through the house, asking for help and stuff. I thought it was pretty cool. Some people didn't like it. I thought it was pretty awesome, kind of seeing Nashi and like the intro, kind of similar like we got the Blue and Burrow animated trailer and everything, but this time him going through the house. They showed these kind of arts here that didn't actually have cards tied to them. It looks like it's going to be like a new cycle of lands, I would say. So there's Flood Farm Verge, and then there's Gloom Lake Verge. So previously I said about how I thought there was going to be tri-lands. This kind of, I think, says no. Like, this is obviously like just a Dimir land. This is Simic, and most likely like a cycle of like two different colors. You would think Surveil would have made the most sense for the lands here, but obviously we just use that in MKM. So, I mean, I guess I could use it again. We'll see. And then there was a Nashi that was shown, despite not getting like shown the actual card, where he's here, and then you've got like the screaming up here from Tamio being like, "Get out of here, dude." And then we had Nico with their shard here. This is apparently the only light within the house, only sunlight within the house. So that's pretty cool to see as well. These gripping hands up here are cool. And then we got the Tunnel Surveiller. So this was like the showing the glimmers. So glimmers are like the representation of people's hopes within the setting. So the glimmers kind of show that kind of thing. And then we had this one where they didn't actually show the card as well. I thought they'd shown this card before, but they definitely shown this art and the fact that it was a special guest for Collected Company with the kind of main cast here. And then obviously that, you know, a reprint of Collected Company within the set. All right, so we start off with Vel'Gavoth. So this is like the big bad of the set. I'm honestly surprised he wasn't Mardu, but no, he's just pure black here. So he's got Flying, Lifelink, Ward, sacrifice 3 non-land permanents. So if someone wants to target him, they need to sacrifice 3 non-lands. If a card you didn't control would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. And then during your turn, you can play cards exiled with Vel'Gavoth, except you pay life equal to its mana value rather than its mana cost. That's actually interesting that it doesn't say you may pay life, because previously it was like with cards like this, a lot of them were you can pay life or you can pay the mana cost. So you can only pay the mana cost with this. So it's kind of like a really interesting kind of thefty kind of card. It's also cool to see like the stairway here kind of leading into Vel'Gavoth's crutch area, I guess, and up his kind of wings and torso. We've got the Wandering Rescuer, which we've seen before. Got Convoke, Double Strike. Other tapped creatures you control have hexproof. My assumption is, and based off of the other cards they've got that they've shown, is that white creates like tokens as well as does stuff with tapped creatures and Convoke. We've got Kaito, Bane of Nightmares. This is very interesting because of the fact that it is a Planeswalker with ninjutsu. That works because of the fact that if it's your turn and he has loyalty counters on him, he is a 3/4 ninja creature with hexproof. So, and the +1/+1, like he's up 1, gives you an emblem. It's not a legendary emblem, so you can technically stack it with ninjas you control, get +1/+1. I wish this could be a commander. This would be such a badass commander, right? Like, just being able to continuously do this. And then we've got Surveil 2, and then you get to draw a card equal to for each opponent who lost life this turn. So if you've dealt damage to, like, you know, 2 people, then you can draw 2 cards. If you've dealt damage to all 3 people, then you can draw, you know, 3 cards. And that's really helpful as well because you've got the Surveil. You've also got the -2, which is tap target creature, put 2 stun counters on it. So you just get to, and you could do that the turn he comes out as well. I love the fact that like his ultimate is not like this huge like -10 ability. Like this is a repeatable thing that you could do pretty often. We've got Duskmourn, all questioning. At the beginning of your end step, if a land entered your turn under your control this turn, and you control a prime number of lands, you get to create Primo, the Indivisible, a legendary 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token, and then you get to put +1/+1s on it based off of the amount of lands, right? Yeah, so based off the amount of lands. So if you've got 3 lands, then you're going to create Primo, then you're going to put 3 +1/+1s on it. You can, like, I guess it just, you'd replace the Primo that was previously there. Like if you had like a 5/5 Primo out, right? And then you play, you get up to 7, then you'd replace that Primo with a 7/7 Primo. I guess because it's at the end step as well, it doesn't matter too much if it has a summoning sickness. We've got Winter Misanthropic Guide. That's a word. Ward 2, at the beginning of your upkeep, each player draws 2 cards, and then Delirium, as long as there's 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, each opponent's maximum hand size is equal to 7 minus the number of those card types. So while it is 4 for like the threshold Delirium, if you've got like 6 card types in your graveyard, then technically people's hand size is 1. That's really cool. We've got the Jolly Balloon Man, which is the creepiest art I think I've ever seen in Magic. It's got haste, pay 1 and tap, create a token that's a copy of another target creature you control, except it's a 1/1 red balloon creature in addition to its other colors and types, and it has flying and haste. So you're essentially turning your creatures, you're making balloons of your creatures and then throwing them at people because, you know, it's got flying and haste so you can attack with it. And then sacrifice it at the beginning of your next end step. I kind of wish this was like Rakdos colors so it could go within the, what's that deck? The Master Multiplied deck, but unfortunately it is Boros. All right, we've got Eerie here. Whenever an enchantment you control, so this is a new mechanic. Whenever an enchantment you control enters, or whenever you fully unlock a room, this card has an effect. So we'll talk about the rooms in a minute. So stuff like Scrambling Skull Crab, this has this. Whenever an enchantment enters, or whenever you fully unlock a room, target player mills a card. So this is target player mills 2 cards. So this is obviously like a take on wow, my brain's not working. Constellation. We've got the rooms, which are enchantments. When you cast it, you cast either the first half or the second half, and it's split down the middle, and then it unlocks that half of it, and then you can pay to unlock the other half of it. So for an example, the Dollmaker's Shop, you can pay to get this half, and then it's whenever you one or more non-toy creatures you control attack a player, create a white toy. Or you could cast the Porcelain Gallery, which is creatures you control have base and toughness equal to the number of creatures you control. Whichever one you cast, you then kind of, I guess you kind of cover up the other half, and then you can pay to like activate the other half of it. So it's like a split kind of multi-faced kind of card, but you can activate both face. It's pretty cool. I like it. I think the rooms are really cool. So then we've got the Fears, which are all about like the enchantment creatures and stuff. They're not like a huge kind of new mechanic, but they are like a whole bunch of different things that are going to be within it. So this is the Fear of Immobility, which is when it enters, tap 1 target creature. If an opponent controls that, put a stun counter on it. We've also got Fear of Lost Teeth, which is when it dies, deal 1 damage to any target and you gain a life. The Glimmers, as I said, are essentially kind of like people's representation of their hope within the Duskmourn kind of area. And when they die, they will return to the battlefield under your control, except it becomes an enchantment, so it's not a creature anymore. So this is going to be really cool in like Bellow, I reckon, because technically when they die, they would get exiled and then it'll come back and they're enchantments again, but then because of Bellow they become animated, so they attack anyway. So they've all got like, you know, enchantment-y kind of effects. So Enduring Innocence, whenever one or more other creatures you control with power 2 or less enter, draw a card. And then Enduring Curiosity, whenever you deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. So Most likely, you know, they all have something that works with them. So Enduring Innocence like works with itself, but also will work as an enchantment. Impending End. So this is like essentially suspend on the battlefield. So it comes in, it's got time counters on it. When the last one's removed, then it becomes a creature. Otherwise, it's not a creature yet. So like there's Overlord of the Mistmoors. Whenever it enters or attacks, create 2/1/1 white insect creature tokens with flying. So obviously you'll get the effect of when it enters. And then eventually, once its kind of time counters run out, then it can attack and create those white insect. They also showed the tokens because they're showing like some arena gameplay, and those are going to be look like moth creatures, which is pretty cool. Manifest Dread. So this is look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one onto the battlefield face down as a 2/2 creature, and then the other into your graveyard. So it's Manifest, except like with a partial kind of surveil-y kind of thing, and then you can turn it face up at any time for its mana cost if it's a creature card. So obviously, like, you know, morphish kind of stuff works really well with this. So it's used in a number of different ways. We've got like Unwanted Remake here, which is destroy target creature. It's controller Manifest Dread. So it's kind of like it's a removal spell that also has the downside of your opponent gets to like look at 2, put one on the battlefield, put one into the graveyard. I think they should have used this art for it. We've got Disturbing Mirth. When it enters, you may sacrifice another enchantment or creature. If you do, draw 2 cards. And then when you sacrifice it, Manifest Dread. So you get to Manifest Dread yourself as well. And we'll see that within one of the precons later on. Hauntwood Shrieker. This I really love. So whenever it attacks, Manifest Dread, and then you can pay green and one colorless to reveal target face down permanent. If it's a creature, you may turn it face up. So like, you know, it just gives you an option of being able to flip stuff for 1 and a green. That is insanely great because, you know, that's very likely going to be less than, you know, the morph cost, the freaking like disguise cost, or whatever mana cost they have anyway. You could cheat so many really big things in with this. Notice it does say you may turn it face up. It's not like, you know, exile it and then put it back or anything. And it would only work with creature cards. We've got Delirium, which we've seen before, but obviously, you know, it's come back. But I just want to show this one because I love this art. So it's Marina getting like whispered by Velgavoth in the background. It's so cool. Search your library for a demon, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. However, if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, instead you get to search for any card. So this is a really, really great tutor in like so many kind of like self-mill decks, or even just later in the game, right? When you've kind of, you know, if you've used an instant, a sorcery, a land's ended up in there somehow and one of your creatures has, or, you know, an enchantment's ended up in there, then you get to be able to do some really cool stuff with this. We've got Survival at the beginning of your second main phase. If this is tapped, gain an effect. So I really want this for my Balin deck, as well as like this works really well with Convoke and stuff, which we saw Convoke earlier on the Emperor. So this is like the Veteran Survivor here, and no Survivor is back. At the beginning of your second main phase, if Veteran Survivor is tapped, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. As long as there are 3 or more cards exiled by Veteran Survivor, it gets +3/+3 and has hexproof. So so really cool stuff you can potentially do with this. At the start, you're going to be exiling cards, obviously, and using him for Convoke. But then later on, you'll have that +3/+3 and hexproof because you've, you know, exiled 3 things. So, or you can even attack with it here. Like that enters, like, because it's in the second main phase. I think they said that this was meant to represent like essentially, what was it, like essentially kind of like getting buffed up because you survived like the big bad of combat, because the second main phase is after combat. So as for the face commanders for the precons, so we've got Aminatu, Veil Piercer, which we've seen before if you watch my video. However, we had confirmation of the fact that she reduces the miracle cost by 4. That is bonkers. Miracle cost reduced by 4 is insane. You may cast a card for its miracle cost when you draw it, if it's the first card you drew this turn. So, you know, she's got Surveil 2, you Surveil 2 prior to drawing, then you draw, you get the card and then you can cast it for 4 less. Is essentially how it's meant to work, as long as they've changed the ruling so that way it does have that miracle like when you draw it, which it should technically be, but like because of the way like this, from what I can understand, the state-based actions, it wouldn't have it yet, but hopefully they change it to make sure that it does not have any confusion there. We've got Winter, Cynical Opportunist, who we've seen it before as well. Death Touch, whenever he attacks, mill 3, and then you, at the beginning of your end step, exile cards from your graveyard with 4 or more card types, and then if you do, you get to put one of them onto the battlefield with a finality counter on it. It's as well as its permanent card, so it's not creatures. Vel'Gavoth, Harrow of Souls. So getting into the new ones, he's got Flying, Ward, pay 2 life. Whenever an opponent loses life for the first time during each of their turns, put a +1/+1 onto Vel'Gavoth, Harrow of Souls, and draw a card. So he is a group slug deck. So all around, you know, dealing damage to people on their turns and stuff like Mana Barbs is going to be bonkers with him, because, you know, just whenever they do stuff, deal damage to them, that means you're going to be able to proc it. Assumedly that's going to be like what the deck is kind of based around, like just dealing damage to people when they do stuff, including yourself potentially. We've got the Jump Scare deck. So this is Duskmourn, Mystery Unraveler. So she's based around that new Manifest Dread ability. So whenever a land you control enters, Manifest Dread. Otherwise, you may turn a permanent you control face up. So the first time you do it, you're manifesting Dread, and then any other kind of lands that enter, you're going to flip something. Did I miss one? No, I didn't. All right, then we've got Archenemy. They showed a couple things. Premonition of Your Demise. They've shown like some really cool art for these schemes. We've got I Am Duskmourn as one of the schemes. At the beginning of your end step, you may cast a spell from your hand without paying its mana cost. If you do, abandon this scheme. So these schemes are obviously because Archenemy's come back, which is essentially like 1v3, so you got 3 other players coming at you. Really cool. They also had some that are like based off of the actual deck, so like, you know, this one here is Winter, but because, you know, it's going to most likely be within the Winter deck, it's really cool. And then this one here is your commander has Ward 2. Whenever your commander attacks, put 2 +1/+1s on it, and then whenever your commander leaves the battlefield, abandon it. So the collecting Duskmourn, they showed some stuff. So this is the Japanese showcase stuff. They're going to be collector booster exclusive. They said 5% chance of getting one, and then a 1% chance of getting the fractured foil version of it. And then when you pull one, it's got 2/3 of a chance for it to be in English if it's non-Japanese collector boosters, and then 1/3 of chance that it is in Japanese, which is interesting. I don't know how I feel about getting Japanese cards in my English boosters, just because I don't want to have to look them up all the time. I got to kind of remember what they do then, I guess. And same with these ones. So I think there's 2 different cycles of them. There's the Enduring cycle and then the Overlord cycle. We have these here, which is like they're the double exposure cards. They're meant to show like their fears, essentially. So I guess Winter's like got the fear of like attachment. Right, I don't know. And then Duskmourn here, and those ones show up in both types of boosters, so play boosters and collectors. However, there is textured foil versions of them that will only show up within the collector boosters. We've got both boosters for these paranormal frames, which are showing up on instants and sorceries, I believe. I don't think they show up on anything that's not instants and sorceries, but this is also a new card here. Discard your hand, then draw X cards, where X is the number of card types among cards in your graveyard. So assumedly Gruul must be like a Delirium kind of thing, and card draw, that's what the other Winter was, although he was Jund, I guess, technically. And then here's some other ones here. So this Split Up is also a new card, 1 and 2 white to choose one, destroy all tapped or destroy all untapped creatures. That is definitely going into my Balin deck. We've got these ones here, which is the Mirror Monsters that show up in both boosters. So there's actually a lot of different kinds of cards that show up in both boosters, which is nice. So like these, the double exposure cards, we've got the paranormal frame cards, and then we've got the Mirror Monster ones. So this is essentially like showing you that kind of movie moment where the monster's about to get someone and you see it like within their glasses or their reflection kind of thing. And this is also a new card when it has first strike during your turn, and then whenever an opponent draws a card, it deals 1 damage. I guess that kind of goes into that card draw thing we showed earlier. And then this is the Hauntwood Shrieker version of it. We also have the Borderless Special Guest. So this is Damnation. Obviously, this is Velgavoth there, and done by Masahiro Ito. We've got also the Lurking Evil one. So these are in both boosters as well. Essentially what this is there's 2 different versions of the cards, right? There's the normal version of it, and then there's going to be a Lurking Evil version of it, which will have a little kind of like Easter egg kind of thing where it's like a monster that's kind of shown up. You can only just see it here. It's kind of hard to see on this one in this art of it. In the full art, it was a little bit easier to see, but in the actual this art, it's a little bit harder to see. But this is Norin. Norin's come back. Now he's on Duskmourn somehow. Whenever a creature you control becomes blocked, you may exile, and then you may play that card from exile this turn. That's interesting. And he can't block as well. Also, Coward's back as well. We've got these ones here, which is the full art of the rooms too. We've got the Nightmare bundle here, which I don't know if I like this at all. So there's a lot of different stuff in here. We've got deck box, we've got 6 boosters, 2 collector boosters, the Nightmare booster, which we'll talk about in a minute, which is essentially kind of like a smaller collector booster, and then we've got the full art Mana Land in foil, and then the double-sided poster inserts. These here go in the art from these. However, so the way these work is in this Nightmare booster, you'll get like, you know, multiple different cards. The first 2 of them, one of them is going to be a selection of one of these 3, and then the other one's going to be a selection of one of these 3. So you only have like a 1 in 3 chance of getting one of these 3 or one of these 3. I hate that. It's so bad. I don't know. Maybe you guys disagree with me, but I don't like the fact that like there's just a chance of getting these. Like, to me, it should have been this Nightmare booster was these 3 and these 3 as promo cards, but that's not up to me. And then they showed as well the Duskmourn House of Horror for the Japanese collector boosters will actually have different art with Kaito on them. They've got welcome decks coming back. They also showed this during the flickering stuff, like this flickering static. So this is an enchantment land, Velgavoth's Lair. It enters tapped. As it enters, choose a color, and then you can pay 1 colorless, add 1 mana of the chosen color. So I guess that's kind of like a good way to be able to cycle stuff, and it's an enchantment land, which is useful for when you kind of want that delirium going off and stuff. So I think it'll be good. Like, I think it could be useful. I don't know. What do you guys think of this one? But let me know. What do you guys think? I hope you guys had a great day. Goodbye.